Today we're going to continue with solving equations, but we are going to focus on a special type called absolute value equations. And we are going to only address one-step absolute value equations in this video. In the next video, we'll talk about two-step absolute value equations. So, what is an absolute value? Absolute value, the definition is actually, has to do with the number line. Okay, so if I were to number these, we have our negatives and our positives. Okay, the definition of absolute value is actually the distance from zero on a number line. Okay, so if I asked you to find the absolute value of 6, I want to know how far is 6 from 0. Okay, so here's 6. If I count, we're back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, the absolute value of 6 is actually 6. Okay, hang on. Okay, that is because it is 6 units away. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind is that we always have a positive distance. Okay, we do not ever have negative distances. So, it doesn't matter which direction you're going, we're just looking at the overall distance. Okay, so if I asked you to find the absolute value of -6, sorry, absolute value there. Okay, I'm going to start at -6 and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so 6 and -6 are both the same distance from 0. Okay, so really what the absolute value of a number is doing is telling you to make that number positive. Okay, we're going to take that a step further and we're going to solve absolute value equations here. So this equation is actually asking me which numbers are 6 units away from 0. Well, we already talked about that. There are two numbers that are 6 units away. We have 6 and -6. So they are asking me which two numbers are 6 units from 0. Okay, now the next one is asking me how many or what numbers are -1 units from 0, and that's not possible because we can't be -1 steps away. Okay, so we actually say no solution there. So here's what you're doing today. You're going to solve equations, absolute value equations. So anytime you have something simple here where the absolute value is already alone, all we're doing is looking for the two numbers that are 2 units away from 0. Okay, those would be 2 and -2. For the second one, I'm looking for the two numbers that are -4 units away. Well, you can't be -4 units away from something, so this would be no solution. Okay, so you can write it out or use your empty set. Okay. We do add some steps in there, okay? So follow these 4 steps, that'll help you out. Isolate the absolute value. That means get rid of anything on the outside of the absolute value. Do not distribute into the absolute value. That doesn't work. You're going to write 2 equations, solve each equation, and check your solution. Okay, so 4 steps we're going to follow. So for this first one, I want to get this absolute value by itself, so I need to cancel this -10 here. Now, if they're right next to each other, to cancel the -10, I actually need to follow the same steps we did in the last unit and divide. So if I divide by -10 on both sides, I'm left with the absolute value of x equals 2. Now, I need to ask myself, what numbers are 2 steps away from 0, and that would be 2 and -2. Okay, to check them, all you have to do is plug them in. If I plug in 2, I get the absolute value of 2, which is 2, times -10, gives me -20. And the absolute value of -2, which is 2, times -10, gives me -20. So we're good. Okay, so for the next one, I need to get my absolute value alone, so that means I need to cancel that -9. So just like we did in the last unit, we're going to add 9 to both sides. So I get the absolute value of v equals 2 again. Just coincidence, didn't really mean to do that on purpose. So I need two numbers that are 2 units away from 2. Okay, we've done that, so we know that 2 and -2 are 2 units away. Okay. This type is a little different because there's nothing on the outside of the absolute value. This absolute value is already by itself. Okay, so my next step is going to be to write 2 equations. But here's the quick thing that I need to pay attention to. if I have a negative number here, and I just have an absolute value on the other side, I don't even have to do any work. I know that it's no solution. Okay, or an empty set. I can't do anything. Okay, so for the next one, I'm going to go ahead and write two equations. And the only difference in the second equation is that I'm going to change this to a -5. Okay, everything else stays the same, just change that side to a -5. Now remember, this is not a fraction, it's a division problem. So r divided by 3, to cancel that divided by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3 on both sides. Okay, so 5 times 3 is 15. Okay, for my second equation, I'm going to do the same thing. So times 3 on both sides. -15 times 3 is -15. Let's do one more together. Actually get it started. For number 4, just like the one we just did, I need to write two equations out because my absolute value is already alone. So for my second equation, I'm going to change this to a -16. Notice nothing else changed. Okay, now go ahead and solve each of those equations. So I want you to try these 4 problems for your guided practice. If you have questions, ask. We will help you out with them. Once you're finished, have them checked and you can get your homework. Have a great day.